What's up,
man? What's up, bro? Yes.
Let's do this.
Made it for another week. Welcome to the Dad's Corner. This is a place for fathers, for leaders, for mentors, for coaches, for people who are making a difference in their families' lives and the lives of their communities and leading the charge. And myself, I'm Tony with the Keys. I'm here with my
Jayson
friend
Krisell.
Jayson Krisell.
Krisell Daddy.
Krisell Daddy.
It just flows.
Yeah, it does, bro. I love it. I love it. Man, how have you been? How's
good? So
how
we got
feeling?
a couple of things to catch up on real quick. So we have our sports cast that has already came out.
I'm excited.
So we launched it last week, which is exciting. Talking fantasy football. So if you're in a fantasy league or getting ready, season starts today. So ready or not, here we go. So if you're listening to this and you don't have your team yet, you probably are not having a fantasy team this year.
Absolutely.
We got a game tonight. So NFL kicks off tonight, which is super exciting. Been a while since we've had professional football. Fantasy football is kind of the only thing that keeps me in it. So it's keeps me engaged. So.
See, and as you know, like I hadn't done fantasy, so I'm excited to see how my team does. So
yeah.
It's
and then we've got shirts and hats came in last week. So if you'll notice this week in the description, we've got obviously the title. We've got all that going, but then we've also got a link to our website. We've got hats, shirts, just a kind of way to start getting some merchandise out there with the logo on it. We've got this logo, and then we've got some really cool shirts with the "Shut the Dang Door" on the back, and just some logoed shirts. So excited about that. But speaking of titles, this week kind of a little bit of a controversial topic can be.
It can be.
Depending on what side of how you feel about it.
Well, I think that it's one and the same, really. Like, I think that they go together. So this week we're going to be talking about discipline versus encouragement. And I think that it's going to be a good topic. I think we're going to uncover some stuff and have some fun with it, like, because it is important that we are firm but also flexible and that we can encourage our children as well. So
So growing up, what was discipline? What did that look like for you?
So
Tony with the keys, with the little keys at that time. Tony with the little keys. You get in trouble. What happens?
Bro, it depends on what type of thing it is. Like,
let's start off small, like back talk.
Oh man, I'm probably going. Like, there's a grounding, but then there's also, like, bro, the belt, bro. Like, hey.
Yeah. We grew up in similar houses.
Come on now. You can't be doing all of that. Like, I don't know. It taught you that the pot is hot. Like, don't touch the pot. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, the stove is hot. Don't touch it.
Literally, figuratively, all
of that. Yeah. Don't touch it. And so I appreciate it. I appreciate good discipline. But I was also very encouraged, like, to do things and to try things and to get outside of myself. So I think that mindset, it has carried over. And my dad was, like, always in my life. So I never felt like, like it was just like I was getting beat up on, you know what I'm saying? But I knew that if I did wrong,
I mean, the Bible clearly
come back here, man.
Spare the rod, fear
come
your
on
parents.
Back here.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I tell people all the time. I didn't get beat, but I got plenty of spankings. But it was also, I never got one I didn't deserve.
100%.
There was never one that I was walking back there going, I don't think this is right. And then I'd get to the back, and there were sometimes it's funny, but Dad would say, man, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, well, we don't have to. We don't have to.
Why are we doing it?
We don't even have to. She's not back here. Like, let's just say we did it. I'll cry. I can fake cry. And then let's don't do it. But, yeah, then she would, I would get, if I got spanked, and then I'd come back through the house, sulking and, like, crying and going back to my room. And, like, my mom would be in the kitchen, like, upset because I had gotten in trouble.
Yeah.
And I was always like, what are you crying for? You ain't the one that got spanked. Like, what are you doing? Get out of this kitchen crying like that.
Have you ever heard that it hurts me more than it hurts you?
Yeah, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
But
as a father, how do you feel as a father?
I feel completely different about it. Because I used to hear that and I used to think, you're crazy. Like, I always just thought physical.
Yeah.
It hurts me more than, no, it doesn't. Because you're swinging. You're not the one that's getting the hit. And then, we're going to talk about it today, but, like, if I'm ever at work or if I'm ever driving home and like I know that the kids are in trouble when I get there, it sucks.
Yeah.
Like I think about it the whole way home. Like I'm gonna get home, they're gonna be excited to see me, but they're also, whichever one of them it is gonna know they're in trouble, and so they're gonna look at me, and and it's like you got to get into it, and when you get home it's about to start. Whereas like when you're the kid, you're thinking maybe dad will forget when he gets home. Maybe. And now that I'm a dad, I'm like, there's no forgetting.
It's the discussion, like it's that look on their face, like especially whenever like mom is telling you, when she's letting you know what happened. Yeah, this happened today, and you look at them and they're like, they got that look on their face, like embarrassed.
They know they messed up.
Disappointed. They know that you're disappointed in the way that they're acting. I mean, and I don't go crazy on them, but like I'm firm like on about certain things, because I don't want the world to be firm on them. Like whenever they get older and we're not there to discipline them, and so that's kind of my mindset behind it.
Yeah, and that's why I hate it when they know that they've messed up, and it's like, but there has to be consequences, because when you get older, you do something wrong, you speed, cop pulls you over, you may get a warning, but for the most part, you're still going to get something.
100%.
Like they're not going to go, you know what, man, go ahead, it's all right. So I mean, you got to be prepared to deal with consequences when you do different things.
Consequences and repercussions.
Oh yeah, I hated them all. I hated them all, especially when I did something, I got caught, and then I was like, this is going to be a good one.
Got a nice little...
I'm waiting for you to lower that thing.
I'm not going to lower it today. See, I usually like have my feet back and it'll be on top, and then all of a sudden it'll hit. Then you have to just leave it, because then it's just funny because you done. Yeah.
So, but today we got two. We both actually had something happen over the last week that kind of sparked this with our sons.
Yeah, man.
And so I'll let you go first, because yours is a little bit older.
Yeah.
Older
So
issue.
my son is 7. So he comes home from school. I'm at the computer. And actually, no, I typically I'm outside whenever he gets off the bus. I'm like there, give him a 5 and all this stuff. He comes off the bus and he's moving at kind of a high clip, like he's walking pretty fast. And so he goes in the door, goes to the bathroom. I go back to the computer. I'm just like, and when he comes back, I'm like, "How was your day today, Dex? Like, how was your day, bud? Who'd you help today?" And he comes around the table, and he's looking at me and he says, it was fine. And then he walks back off, and then he comes back and he walks back, like he keeps kind of coming to me, and it's kind of strange because he's usually answers and then he's wanting to go get a snack and wanting to go do some stuff.
He's lingering.
He's kind of lingering, and he's looking at me in my eyes, and I look at him and I'm like, "Dex, did something happen today?" And he's like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Man, what's up with your eye? Like, I see like a blemish right here, like under his right eye." And I'm like, "Did you get hit?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Dex, did you have a fight?" He said, "Yeah, on the bus." I was like, "Oh my gosh, what happened, Dex?" He's like, "I don't know." I'm like, "You don't know what happened?" He said, "It just happened." Yeah. He's like, "The guy hit me and I just did like this, and and he's showing me like that he fought." I was like, "Is that the only time you got hit?" And he's like, "Yeah." So it's different whenever your child gets into a fight. Like, of course, you don't want your kid fighting, but then at the same time, you want to make sure that he didn't get beat up,
right?
And that he didn't hurt somebody. So like, it's kind of a weird situation. Anyway, so he's not telling me what has led, like what happened before that happened, and
his sister on the bus.
His sister's at volleyball practice, so she's not there right now. So he's like, "Man, we were standing in the line, waiting to get on the bus, and kids, he's got this little backpack that kind of lights up, and people were flicking his backpack. A couple of girls were flicking his backpack. This boy was flicking his backpack, all this stuff. And they get on the bus, and I'm asking, like, "Did you get in a fight right then?" And he was like, "No." I was like, "Okay, so y'all got on the bus, and then what happened?" And he was like, "We sat down." "Where was the other boy sitting?" "Sitting right across from me." "Okay. So what happened? Like, what was said? Did you say something to him? Did he say something?" He's like, all I told him is that boys don't hit girls. And I was like, boys don't hit girls. And I said,
valid.
Which is good.
Valid
Which is
point.
good.
Yeah.
And I said, and
building his case.
And y'all got in a fight behind that? He said, yeah, he stood up and he hit me. And I'm like, well, what led, like what? Anyway, I still don't know, to this very day, I still don't know what exactly led to the fight part. I just know that there's a couple of things leading up to it. Boys don't hit girls. People were flicking on his backpack. And Dex is tall. He's a big kid for being in the second grade. Like, he's big.
Yeah.
And so I just can't imagine that kids are picking on him. But, like, I don't know.
Back of the bus, man.
I just don't know what led to this. And see, at that age, like, they don't sit in the very back. Like, they have to sit, like, kind of in the middle and up front. And so he says that the kid hit him and he got up and he... about this time, he's telling me, about this time the doorbell rings. And I go and I look at the door and it's Dex's friends. And I open the door and I say, Miguel, what happened today with Dex on the bus? He said, Dex beat up this kid. And
now you're like, oh.
I said, he did what? Yeah, the kid hit him first, though. He hit him first. And so I was like, okay, well, Dex can't play right now. So, I
got to find out what's going on.
I need to find out what's happening. So at this point, like, I don't want to, like, it's one of those sticky situations. Like, I need to let him know that it's not okay to fight. I'm glad that he defended himself and he stood up for something. But, like, we don't fight. And then I don't want him to have beat up somebody and have hurt them. And he's like, I'm like, did you hurt this kid? And he's like, no, I didn't hurt him. He cried or whatever, but
what's the bus driver doing? I mean,
so the bus driver ended up reprimanding him and told him, what happened. And Miguel stood up for him and was like, no, he did. The other kid hit him first and all this stuff. And so then I have to have this talk with him about, like,
you the real MVP.
Yeah, I have to have this talk with him about, like, you don't. It's kind of a thing.
Get into it.
Because I don't want him to be an aggressor, but I also don't want him to go around getting hit to have to fight somebody.
Yeah.
Like, and so me personally, bro, I'm like I get
cheering a little bit on the inside.
I am. I'm glad that he didn't get beat up. I'm glad that he didn't get hurt, and I'm glad he didn't hurt somebody, and I'm glad that he stood up for himself and defended himself. But you don't have to get hit to defend yourself. Like, if you know stuff is going that way, and I'm talking to him, if you know stuff is going that way, then like, you need to either back up or you need to, like, strike first. Like, because I don't want him to get rolled over.
Well, here's the worst advice.
It's crazy, bro.
This is the worst advice I think that you give, like, that people give a kid just for later on in life. Like, when they're kids, maybe it works, but at some point you have to change the narrative. But when they say, don't start it, but you better finish it, right? Yeah. But what you're saying by that is, go ahead and take a shot and then get after it. And I'm like, if you see that it's kind of going that way, maybe throw that first punch.
That's why I'm trying to figure out.
Maybe pushing back, because it's like, once you get to that point, then it's like, if you get to a certain age and guys hit you first, I mean, a grown man hits you first, you may not get a chance to get another lick off.
Exactly. And so, like I said, you want to.
Casey and I battle about that a lot.
You want to let them know,
go
right?
Tell the teachers, and I'm like, but for that to happen, our kid has to get hit first, or pushed first, or whatever it is. Then they go tell the teacher. Well, what if the teacher's not around, or what if the teacher's over in another area? Like, oh, you're saying that they got to take that first punch, that first push, that first whatever it is, and maybe they don't. I don't want them to do that. Now, I've told both. I told Colin this too. I said, you better not. I don't want you to push first. If you get in trouble at school and they said, well, yeah, she pushed or he pushed first, you're gonna be in trouble because you started it. Yeah. I'm not saying don't start it. But if something happens, because right now at this age, there's no, like, escalation. They could be just mid-conversation and a push. I mean, 3 and 4 year old, there's no logic. It's just spur of the moment stuff. But I was like, if that happens to you, before you go get that teacher, even it up.
Yeah.
Because, especially with Colin, because she's little. Like, Cope's kind of like Dex in the sense that not super tall, but he's taller, he's leaner, he's just bigger for his age. Colin's different. She's smaller, she's more petite. But I'm like, don't let somebody, even if it's a girl, don't let somebody push you. Yeah. And then you go tell the teacher, and then, because I mean, they come home and they're like, oh, this kid's being mean. And of course, at that age, we're like, well, what's being mean? Like, did they take a toy first? Or, you know what I mean? It's not, they pushed me or hit me. But then it was like, if it's something kind of physical, don't just get knocked down. Because then at that age, that kid's going to be like, well, anytime I want something, I'm just going to push them down and take it. Or, you know, you stand up one time and it's like, I'm not going to push that kid again.
Well, and that's why I'm like, and at this point, like, I've let it go. I'm not gonna.
What Tiffany say
hone in on to it. Well, she was disturbed by it. Like, you know, she's like, he did what? What happened? What happened? And she's wanting to know everything. And I'm like, baby, I don't know. Like, he stood up for himself. He didn't lose the fight. Like, let's move forward. I've already talked to him about it. Like, I told him, you know, what it was. I didn't like high five him or anything. Like, good job, but I kind of gave him a little bit. It's funny because right after that, but no, I still kind of wanted to know what sparked it, and if there was like a period where it was
the emotions
like
and the
pushes and all this stuff. Like, I don't know. Because he was calm whenever he came home. Like, I think he was in that smiling.
Moment, like, you think about it at this age, if you got in a fight, it'd be hard for you to remember. You maybe remember the beginning, but like in between, like, you kind of get in that mindset. And I think maybe he's not telling you. It's just like, I don't remember. Yeah. You know, once you get hit, it's kind of like things go.
It's blacked out. Yeah, I know. What's funny is, it's like after that, you know, as opposed to him getting disciplined in a certain way, he was like, well, can you just make me work out? And so I don't know if he was trying to train for something. Like, because that's one of the disciplines that I do for my children. Is like, we're gonna do like 1,000 sets of something, like not 1,000 sets, but 1,000 reps of something. So like push-ups, jumping jacks, sit-ups, like, you know, whatever it takes to get to 1,000. So like that's kind of my thing. So he was like, can I just do 1,000? And so I was like, yeah, let's go. And so I'll get him started, and he'll do some stuff, and he started doing some burpees and all. I mean, he was wanting to. So we've got this mirror at the house. He was wanting to do like the boxing thing, and I'm like, dude, let's just.
Be like, well, that's your discipline. You're not gonna let you. You obviously can't control that yet. Yeah. Like, we got to step over here.
So,
what happens if Sis is on the bus?
I feel like she gets in between it. She doesn't allow it to get to that point. I don't know how loud they were talking, but I can only imagine that there was probably some loud talk before a fight.
Yeah.
That there was probably some type of
altercation,
confrontation. Like, you could kind of see it. I'm sure that other kids could see it because, you know, some of the kids saw it. And,
they're egging it on too.
And so probably at that point, and maybe that's what happened. Maybe somebody's instigating the other little kid to hit Dex or something. I don't know exactly what happened and what took place. But if she's on the bus, then I don't think that it goes that far. She's big too. Like, she's tall. She's a tall 12-year-old, and so I don't think it even goes to that point. If she's on the bus, but she's not. He is. He gets off the bus, and that's one of the things that you worry about. Like, you don't want your kid to be fighting. Like, you don't want.
Yeah, you don't want that kid.
You don't want that, him to be the problem child, and him to have beat up somebody and the parents and all that stuff. So I don't know. There hasn't been much recoil from it as of yet, and hopefully there's not. I was like,
He's rode the bus since then. So
I said I need to call the school, and Tiffany was like, no, don't even do that, because I wanted to see the footage. Like, I know that the bus has camera. Like, I wanted to see
CCTV.
I wanted to see what took place. You know, I wanted to see him throw a couple. But man, that's kind of one of the things. So it was more of a discipline. There was some encouragement there. Like, I encourage you to defend yourself. I'm proud of you for standing up for something and for defending yourself, and not just letting somebody hit you and you not doing anything. But then there's also the discipline, like, we don't fight, period. Like, try to avoid it. Like, there's ways to avoid it. I'm sure there was. But you know, it's a funny situation. Like, it's funny because he still, like, he just got real blurry and he gets real, like, evasive whenever I get to that part. Like, so what happened right then? He's like,
I don't know. I wasn't even there. Like,
I don't know. It wasn't me.
Yeah, that's so funny.
So you had
mine was a lot less.
You had something.
Mine was a lot.
Too.
Mine is super.
Bro, I thought I was about to go.
I thought you were going over. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna keep it going. If you fall over, I'm gonna act like it didn't even happen. I'm just gonna let it go.
Yeah.
I'm gonna laugh hysterically, but then I'm gonna.
Okay.
So this is go back to what I was saying earlier. So I get it's probably like 10 o'clock the morning it happened. I get a message from Casey, who's gotten a message from the school that Cope has said something. And I'm like, well, send me the message. Like, what did he say? And so Cope's like the sweet one. Like, Cope's the kind-hearted. He takes care of everybody. He's, you know, and Collins, it's not that she isn't, but she's more of like the I'll hit you in the throat type personality.
Yeah.
And so I get on there and I see the message, and it basically says that Cope looked at his like independent aide, like the aide teacher, talking about his main teacher, and it's like, she's being a fucker today. And I'm like, when I say that my body, like I felt it from my feet all the way to my head get angry. And now I'm also like, a part of me is going, it's kind of funny to hear him say that in a sentence because he used it correctly.
Yeah.
But that's also not a word that like Casey and I throw around the house.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I'm not going to say you don't hear a D and S, like, but you don't normally hear, you don't hear the F word.
Yeah.
And so Casey like writes her back, is like, no, that's not like him. That's not normal. He'll be in trouble when he gets home. Well, for me, that sucked because all day long, that's all I thought about. And I had a meeting that afternoon, and so Casey gets home with the kids, and I get home literally as they're pulling in the driveway. Well, he gets out, and we lock eyes, and he knows he's done. And so he starts looking at Casey, he's like, my stomach hurts. And she's like, nah. She's like, go over there. And so the whole time I'm thinking, like, what am I going to say? How am I going to make this a teachable moment? Because while I thought it was funny, like, that's not okay in the slightest.
Yes, sure.
And so one thing I always try to do, and I recommend this to any, is you get eye to eye with them.
Yes.
Whether you get down on their level or you pick them up to your level, eye to eye. One main reason is you're going to have focus. You're going to have them looking at you, and if you're up here and they're down here, it's going to feel like you're talking down to them. And even at that age, they're going to feel that. They're going to feel that, like, he's talking down to me, he's not talking to me, and they're going to have a hard time. They're going to be looking around. Same thing, vice versa. So I put him up on my tailgate. And I said, I want you to tell me what happened today. Like, and he knows I know. And so he goes to start telling it, breaks down immediately. And I looked at him and I said, and this is a point I drive home with him. Nah, if you're big enough to say it, the tears aren't helping you. The tears are not going to make me less mad. They may make me madder, because if you're big enough to say it, now let's own up to it. You made a mistake, let's own up to it, and let's hear what happened. And so he didn't say the word, but he said, I called my teacher a name. And, I mean, he's losing it at this point. I said, well, tonight, I said, you'll get no tablet. Mm-hmm. I said, you're going to go to bed earlier than you normally do. And I said, but here's the number one thing. I said, we don't speak to women like that, period. I was like, we don't speak to anybody like that, but we're definitely, you're not going to speak to your teacher like that, especially when his teacher's awesome.
Yeah.
I said, you're not going to speak to her like that. So I said, tomorrow what you're going to do is you're going to walk in and you're going to go straight to her. And you're going to say, I am so sorry. I will never say that to you again. And then you're going to go to the other teacher. And he goes, I didn't say it to her. I said, you said it to her about the other teacher. I said, you're going to go to her and you're going to apologize for hearing it. I said, because number one, we don't talk to women like that. And honestly, you should go apologize to your mom, because this is disappointing for her to hear that you're at school talking like this. And I always thought I was going to be more of like a spanker, more of a, and I've maybe spanked Cope twice in his whole life.
Yeah.
It normally doesn't get to that point. Normally he knows he's messed up. Colin the same way. Like, once they hear my voice deep tone, like they know, okay, I've messed up. But I was like, I want them to know that you've screwed up. There's consequences. Like, we're not going to let this blow under the rug. We're not going to go upstairs and act like nothing ever happened. And I said, you're going to go clean your room, no tablet. You know, we're going to eat dinner, and then it's going to be bedtime. And he was like, okay, yes, sir. And I said, so like 2 or 3 times that night, I said, what are you going to say tomorrow? And like that way, because I don't want it to be one of those half apologies where you walk up and you're kind of looking around. I said, I want you to talk to her. Like me and you are talking right now, I want you to talk to her and tell her you're sorry and that you'll never do it again. And it was one of those moments where, like, talking with buddies about it, it's like you and I, when we talked about it, it was like we kind of chuckled at what he said. But like with him, I want him to know that not only is it not okay, it's not okay who you spoke to, but it's also, that's not a word that you use, and he doesn't even know what it means.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's not like he meant it as what it is, but it was like, I'm just mad at her, so that's the word I'm going to use to describe it. Well, Casey gets to asking him, well, where'd you hear it? What do you think he said?
Dad?
Yeah. He said, oh, I heard it when me and Dad were at the land. I heard it out in the woods. Well, it's just me and him out there, so it ain't like he heard it from a raccoon. So then I'm like, and I asked him, I said, so where'd you hear that at? I don't know. I'm like, did you hear me say it? Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not a saint. I've said a few words before. Sure, but I looked at him and I'm like, dang. You threw me under the bus like that. So then, of course, I get the conversation of, well, he said he heard it from you. And I'm thinking back, like, when did I say that? When would I have said, when would I have said that? But it's also one of those words that if it's like, you can't get something to go right and you're like working on it and your hand slips on a, you're like, you mother,
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, maybe he did. Maybe he heard it from me. And so it was also a teachable moment for myself. And I told him, I said, if you've heard that from me, you shouldn't have. Like, you shouldn't hear that from me. If I've said that before, that's on me. And I've got to work on that because it's not okay for me, even at my age, it's not okay for me to say that.
That's good.
So I would just told him, the difference in right and wrong words. Like, there's words he'll say, hey, can I say this? And I'll be like, what is it? And he'll say it. I'm like, no, you can't say that. Where'd you hear that? We'll talk about it. But in that moment, I had to have kind of a critique with myself of, he's getting to that age where you're going to let a word slide and get ready because it can come back
it's
and be thrown back. Word. Yeah, be thrown back. And it's like he never wants to say the words that are
the good words.
Yeah, it's like crazy. I give him a word like photosynthesis. He's not using that, but you say the F word, he's like, I'm going to use it. I like it. I got it right here, Dad.
It rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. So, but that's what I was saying earlier. It sucks because I thought about it all day. We got home. I knew he was going to be in trouble. And when like one of them's in trouble, the whole house is gloomy a little bit, and Colin doesn't really understand. She knew he was in trouble. Of course, she's like, Dad, Bubba said this, Bubba got in trouble at school. She's just agging it on. And I'm like, I'm not talking to you right now, but it stinks because you can feel it on the whole house. And then once they finally go to bed, Casey and I get a chance to talk about it. And not a huge deal. We don't want it to continue happening, but it's a one-off situation. And so we try not to harp on it. Because I realize our kids are so good that it doesn't take a lot for Casey and I to kind of come down on them.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that, like, they made a mistake, but they're also 99% of the time really good. No, and so it's like we can't be like, oh, you made a mistake, now the wrath of mom and dad. We want it to be, know they're in trouble, but also not beat them over the head with it.
I think that's important. And being able to allowing them to have someone that they can talk to even whenever they know that they've made a mistake. Like, and that's the type of stuff that I want. Like, have the hard conversation. That's what I realized that Dex was trying to do. Like, and we've gone through some things, and I'm not a real big spanker either. I will though. I will. Like, if it's continued and then he like lashes out or something. The other night he kicked the wall and I'm like, do not kick my wall, dude. What are you doing? Because something didn't go his way.
Yeah.
Like, no, we do not do that.
I heard a comedian one time go, hey, he saw his kid hit somebody. He goes, hey, we don't hit. And his son looked at him and was like, what? Yeah. So
that's funny too, like, because that's in my mind, like, we don't deal with things like that. You gotta have that mindset. Like, am I teaching my children to deal with things the way that I'm dealing with it and telling them not to deal with it like that? Yep. But we talk about having those hard conversations. Like, don't be afraid to talk to me. Like, you can talk to me about anything.
Yep.
And that's something that I told him after that situation because I saw him. Like, he was trying to have the conversation. He didn't know how to start it. And so he was just like looking in my face because he knew that there was something like, I saw him. I guess he was walking over there.
To see it.
He was walking over there, and then he was walking to the mirror is what he was doing and coming back. And so he wanted to have the conversation. He didn't know how to start it, and then he forgot a bunch of stuff in it. Like he didn't really want to talk about it. But I think that that's important to be able to, give them that space to talk. Yeah. And what you said about getting at their level, like that's super important. Eye level. I utilize that with coaching and with everything. Like that's such an important tool and tip to be able to get to eye level so you can be on their level and they don't feel like you're
talking down on
them, man. It's important. But no, man, I mean, I love to encourage my kids to do things, to go above and beyond, to be all they can be, to explore new things, to try and be creative. But I think that in doing so, sometimes they get a little bit out of bounds.
Yeah.
And we just have to reel them in.
And they're
so
still trying to find the parameters of what's,
Like discipline, another like term for discipline is like martial arts is a discipline. Boxing is a discipline. There's all of these different disciplines, and it's like these are what's the word I'm looking for? They're disciplines because that's like that's the way.
Yeah.
So a discipline can be the way. It doesn't necessarily have to be that it's a reprimand or anything like that. Like we discipline these things. We want to have self-discipline.
Yep.
So I don't think that discipline is a dirty word. I think that we should discipline to guide our children, not necessarily to show them who's boss, but to guide them.
Yep.
And to help them understand that we're there to help them get to the next level, that we're there to help them to grow up to be respectable human beings and good people and society,
Absolutely.
And encourage them to do that. So,
yep. Good stuff, man. Well, again, just want to shout out to our sponsor today, White Oak Ridge Cattle Company. Me and Casey have been buying cattle there for a year. That's where we buy all of our meat. We have not bought beef from a store in about 4.5 years. So can't recommend them anymore. They've got an order coming up in October. So reach out. Their link will be in our description.
Yeah.
Reach out to them. You can get a quarter, half, whole cow. You can also do different cuts, whatever you want. But Seth and his family, it's a father-run business, which is
that's awesome.
One thing that's awesome. Yeah, he has his kids out there working with him. Super cool. Go to their website. Very reasonably priced. You also know where your meat's coming from, what your meat's been eating. There's nothing processed in there. There's nothing crazy. So thanks for the sponsorship. And then
Cattle Oak Ridge, man. Yeah.
Oak Ridge Cattle.
Oh, White Oak
Yeah.
Ridge Cattle. White Oak Ridge Cattle. That's awesome. Thank you for sponsoring. And if you want to, help out and sponsor one of these shows or anything that we have going on, there will also be an opportunity for you to do that link at the bottom. So
yeah. And so next week we're going to do something a little different. Instead of us sitting here having a topic, what we're going to do is we're going to put this question out there, see what responses we get, and that's going to be what the whole episode's about. So this for dads and moms, anybody who watches. What is a topic or struggle that you as a father or a parent deal with that you wish more people knew about? Whether that be you're a new parent getting into it, whether you've been parents for a while, what's a topic that you think you didn't know about coming into parenthood? And so we're going to take that, we're going to go back and forth, kind of give some comments. We've got a ton of comments going on it, so we're excited about it. But we're going to read those comments and just kind of dissect some of the different things that people bring up.
Absolutely. If you want to answer that question down at the bottom, we'll put that question in the description of this, and I'd love to see your answers in the comments of this show right here. And how would you deal with, how do you deal with discipline and how do you encourage your children? So those two things, definitely answer that question. But if you want to answer that question that we're posing, we're going to have a whole show on it next week. So I'm excited.
And we even had a comment about like just different sports things that we could talk about. And one of them was like the race that just happened between the cheetah and a pie cost. And it was like who would win and what you're doing. And so any comments that you want to have, like anything like that, I'll ask you, who do you think would win between that cheetah and a pie cost?
A cheetah and a pie cost?
Yeah.
What's a pie cost?
About $6. Let's go. Set him up. Hook, line, and sinker.
He's good.
Hey,
He's good.
shut the dang door.